in the lively village of Awali, where life is traditional, better than what it is in the cities. Here, the drums beats to the rhythm of life, and children danced under the golden sun. 7-year-old Cheboi was a force of nature in the village. The village, that was a patchwork of vibrant colors, laced with brightly patterned fabrics drying on lines, the green of cassava and yam fields, and the red earth that seemed to hum with the energy of the people who walked it. In the middle of this bustling beauty, Cheboi was a boy no one could ignore. His energy seemed boundless, as if he carried the very spirit of the sun within him. From the moment he opened his eyes at dawn, he was a cloud of motion. He dashed out of his family's clay-walled hut before his mother could even remind him to eat his breakfast. He darted through the village paths, chasing butterflies, hopping over chickens, and sometimes startling the goats that grazed near the riverbank. Cheboi, slow down! Mama and Jerry would often call after him, shaking her head but unable to suppress a smile. You'll run out of energy before noon. But Cheboi never did. His legs never tired, and his mind never stopped racing with questions and ideas. He loved to explore the nooks and crannies of the village, discovering secret trails in the bushes or climbing the tall irako trees that stood like a watch around Awali. He was always dreaming, always imagining, whether it was inventing games for the other children, sketching pictures in the dirt with a stick, or pretending he was a great hunter chasing invisible prey. You could count Cheboi in. Cheboi energy was both a gift and a challenge. While his spirit brightened the village, his restless nature often left tasks undone. One moment, he would be helping Mama and Jerry fetch water from the river, and the next, he'd be halfway up a tree trying to rescue a bird he thought was stuck. The women of the village would laugh and shake their heads as they watched him zip around like a whirlwind, his tiny feet kicking up red dust. Cheboi will grow into a great man someday, Baba Kamani the elder would say as he watched the boy with twinkling eyes. He has the spirit of a lion, but even a lion must learn to be still and listen. He added, despite his endless energy, Cheboi's heart was as big as the sky. He was the first to share his roasted plantains with a hungry friend and the first to dive into a task if he thought it would help someone. Though his hands were often messy and his plans chaotic, his intentions were always pure. Little did Cheboi know that his uncontainable energy and big heart would soon lead him on an adventure that would change the fate of Awali forever. An adventure that would test his spirit, his courage, and his ability to channel his wild energy for the greater good. One evening, Baba Kamani, the elder, shared a tale about the legend of the Tree of Dreams, a magical sycamore tree that granted the wish of the pure in heart. It must be only one wish, he learned. Chebio's hyperactive mind spun with excitement. He'll find it and make a wish for rain, he declared. Unknown to him, in the neighboring village of Orjiwa, a man named Aduwa had been hunting for the tree since he was a boy. Aduwa's heart was filled with darkness. He wanted to curse the land with drought, so he could control the rivers and force the people to beg him for water. But no matter how many maps he drew or how many paths he took, the gods ensured he always got lost. That night, Aduwa overheard Cheboi's excited chatter as he planned his journey with his best friend, Kamba. A wicked smile spread across his face. If I follow this boy, he'll lead me to the tree. Then I'll deal with him and make my wish. At dawn, Cheboi and Kamba set off on their journey. Cheboi bounced ahead, his energy endless, while Kamba followed behind, careful not to trip on the forest roots. The forest was alive with sounds, the hum of insects, the chirp of birds, and the rustle of leaves. The children's laughter filled the air, masking the quiet footsteps of someone following them in the shadows. Aduwa, a man from the next village, hid behind the trees. He had been searching for the magical sycamore tree for years, but the gods always made him lose his way because his heart was full of greed. Now he thought he could use the children to find the tree. His dark plan was to trick the tree into cursing the land with drought, making animals and people suffer so he could take control. Slow down, Cheboi, Kamba called, trying to catch her breath. We'll find the tree, but you'll run out of energy if you keep this up. Cheboi grinned, his bright eyes shining. I never run out of energy, Kamba. We're almost there. I can feel it. He was right. As the sun began to set, they came to a small hill. At the top, they saw it, the sycamore tree. It was the biggest tree they had ever seen. Its roots spread out like giant arms, and its leaves sparkled as if covered in tiny stars. Cheboi ran toward it, his excitement spilling over. "We found it," he shouted, waving at Kamba. But before he could get closer, a man stepped out from the bushes. It was Aduwa. "Well done, boy," Aduwa said with a sly smile. His voice was smooth, but it made Kamba shiver. "You found the tree, but such power is not for playful children." Cheboi stopped and frowned. "Who are you?" "I'm someone who understands what this tree can do," Aduwa said, walking closer. "Its magic is too big for kids like you. Step aside and let me speak to the tree." Kamba stepped forward, her hands on her hips. "The tree is for people with good hearts. What do you want with it?" Aduwa's smile disappeared. His eyes grew dark as he said, "Good hearts? What nonsense! Power is for the strong. Now move or you'll regret it." Cheboi felt nervous, but his courage didn't leave him. "The tree won't listen to you," he said, standing tall. "It knows who is good and who isn't." Aduwa sneered. "Well, see about that." He reached into his bag and pulled out a net made of twisted vines. Before Cheboi could react, Aduwa threw the net over him. The vines wrapped tightly around Cheboi, holding him in place. "Cheboi!" Kamba cried, running to help him. But the net glowed with strange magic and wouldn't let her touch it. Aduwa laughed as he turned to the sycamore tree. "Now you are mine," he said, stepping closer. "Great tree, I command you to bring a drought upon the land. Let the rivers dry, the crops fail, and the animals suffer." But before Aduwa could say more, the ground shook. The sycamore tree began to glow brighter, its roots moving as though they were alive. A deep voice rumbled from the tree, shaking the forest. "Who dares to approach me with greed and evil in his heart?" Aduwa froze, his face pale. The roots of the tree shot out, wrapping around him. The tree's voice thundered. "For years you have searched for me with wicked plans. Now, you will be lost in this forest forever." Cheboi watched in awe as the vines holding him fell away. Kamba rushed to his side, hugging him tightly. The tree's voice softened. "Cheboi, Kamba, your hearts are pure. What is it you wish for?" Cheboi stepped forward, his voice steady. "We wish for rain to help our village and to make the land full of life again." The tree glowed warmly, and suddenly, soft raindrops began to fall. Cheboi and Kamba laughed as the rain soaked their clothes. While Aduwa wandered the forest, lost and alone, a reminder that greed and evil only lead to ruin. When they returned to the village, everyone cheered and hugged them, thanking them for their bravery. The once dry and dusty streets of Awali were alive with people dancing and cheering. The rain had come just in time to save the crops, and the air was filled with the smell of wet earth and hope. Mama and Jerry ran out from their clay-walled hut, her hands flying to her mouth when she saw her son. "Cheboi! Kamba! What happened? Where have you two been?" Cheboi ran into her arms, talking so fast she could barely understand him. "Mama, we found the sycamore tree. It glows, and it talks. And there was this bad man, Aduwa, but the tree stopped him, and we wished for rain, and now look." He spread his arms wide, laughing as the rain dripped down his face. The elders gathered quickly under the largest thatched canopy, wanting to hear the full story. Baba Kamani, the oldest and wisest, held up his hand for silence. "Cheboi, tell us everything," he said. Cheboi and Kamba shared the tale from the beginning. How they found the tree, how Aduwa had followed them with evil plans, and how the tree had punished him and granted their wish. The villagers listened in awe, murmuring and nodding as the children spoke. When they finished, Baba Kamani stroked his long white beard thoughtfully. "The gods have blessed us today," he said, "but they have also taught us a lesson. The power of good hearts, bravery, and friendship is greater than any evil." The villagers clapped and cheered, lifting Cheboi and Kamba onto their shoulders. Songs were sung, and drums were played as the celebration continued long into the night. But not everyone was entirely happy. Some market women muttered among themselves. "Cheboi is still a troublemaker," one whispered. "What if this adventure makes him even wilder?" Baba Kamani overheard and smiled. "Cheboi energy may tire us out, but it is also what makes him special. He is like the river, always moving, always alive. And just like a river, his energy needs guidance, not chains." Over the next weeks, Cheboi became a little hero in the village. The elders asked him to help organize planting ceremonies. The younger children followed him everywhere, and even the most skeptical adults began to see him differently. They saw a boy with an unstoppable spirit, a kind heart, and the courage to face danger for the good of others. One day, as Cheboi played with Kamba by the river, Baba Kamani approached. "Cheboi," he said, sitting beside him. "Do you know why the tree listened to you?" Cheboi shrugged. "Because we had a good wish." "Yes," Baba Kamani said, nodding. "But also because you are not afraid to be yourself. Even when Aduwa tried to scare you, you stood firm. The tree saw your pure heart, and that is the greatest magic of all." Cheboi smiled, a little embarrassed but proud. "I just wanted to help, Baba." "And you did, Cheboi. You helped more than you know. But remember, being a hero doesn't mean you stop learning. Use your energy to grow stronger, smarter, and kinder. That way, you'll always find your way no matter what challenges come." Cheboi nodded, his mind already racing with ideas of what he could do next for the village. His adventures had only just begun. And so, while the rains nourished the land, Cheboi's story nourished the hearts of the people, reminding them that even the wildest spirit can bring great blessings when guided by love and courage. As the rainy season filled the village with life, Cheboi couldn't sit still for long. The crops were growing, the animals were healthy, and the villagers were happier than ever. But one problem remained. The village's main stream, which the people relied on for water, had started to dry up. The elders were concerned. How can this happen when the rains have been so generous? Baba Kamani wondered aloud during a village meeting. Something must be blocking the water's path. Cheboi, who was sitting at the back of the gathering, couldn't help but blurt out, "I'll find the problem. I can fix it." Mama and Jerry sighed. "Cheboi, this isn't one of your games. Let the adults handle it." But Baba Kamani smiled. "Cheboi's curiosity has served us before. Let him try. Sometimes, a fresh pair of eyes can see what others cannot." Cheboi grinned and turned to Kamba. "Ready for another adventure?" Kamba raised an eyebrow. "Do I have a choice?" The next morning, Cheboi and Kamba set off with a small bag of roasted ground nuts, a gourd of water, and their trusted slingshot for protection. They followed the stream deep into the forest, where the trees grew taller and the air smelled of wet moss. Cheboi, as usual, darted ahead, climbing rocks and poking at bushes. Kamba stayed close, her eyes scanning the forest for any signs of trouble. After hours of walking, they came to a spot where the stream narrowed and slowed, almost stopping entirely. "This must be where the problem is," Kamba said, crouching to inspect the water. Cheboi climbed a nearby rock to get a better view. "Look!" he pointed. "There's something blocking the stream up ahead." They scrambled over to find a pile of branches, mud, and rocks forming a dam. At first, it looked like nature had built it, but as Kamba looked closer, she gasped, "Cheboi, this isn't natural. Someone made this on purpose." Cheboi's eyes lit up. "You mean like a mystery? Who would do that?" As they worked to pull apart the dam, they heard a rustling behind them. Turning slowly, they saw a group of men stepping out of the shadows. The leader, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, crossed his arms and glared at them. "What do you think you're doing?" The man growled. Cheboi stood tall, his restless energy bubbling into defiance. "We're fixing the stream. The village needs this water." The man smirked. "That's exactly why we blocked it. With no water, your village will have to come to us for help, and we'll make them pay for every drop." Kamba grabbed Cheboi's arm. "Let's go," she whispered. But Cheboi shook his head. "No way! The stream belongs to everyone, not these bullies." Cheboi's quick mind went to work. "If we distract them, we can break the dam and let the water flow again," he whispered to Kamba. Kamba hesitated but nodded. "What's the plan?" Cheboi grinned. "You start pulling the dam apart while I make them chase me." Before Kamba could argue, Cheboi took off, shouting, "Hey, bet you can't catch me." The men, angered by his taunts, ran after him, leaving the dam unguarded. Cheboi darted through the forest, climbing trees and jumping over logs, his energy keeping him just out of their reach. Meanwhile, Kamba worked quickly to pull apart the dam. The water began to rush through, slowly at first, then faster and faster until the stream flowed freely again. When the men realized what had happened, they stopped chasing Cheboi and turned back, only to find Kamba standing proudly by the restored stream. The leader scowled but knew they had been defeated. "This isn't over," he muttered before disappearing into the forest with his group. Cheboi returned, out of breath but grinning. See, easy. Kamba rolled her eyes but smiled. Easy for you to say. You didn't have to deal with the dam. When they returned to the village, the stream was flowing again and the people cheered. Cheboi and Kamba told the story of the greedy men and how they had saved the water for everyone. Babakimani no Visili. Once again, your energy and bravery have saved us, Cheboi. But remember, not every problem can be solved with speed alone. Sometimes, you must also think carefully and plan wisely. Cheboi smiled. I'll try, Baba, but running is just so much fun. The villagers laughed, and Mama Cheboi hugged her son tightly. Though he was still the whirlwind of Awali, everyone now knew that Cheboi's restless energy and big heart were gifts that could protect them all. And as Cheboi lay under the stars that night, he couldn't help but wonder, what would his next adventure be? The end. Share and subscribe.